Okay, we are continuing in Christian apologetics. We're continuing from where we were last week, obviously. We are proving that the Bible is the Word of God, and we're just learning some things concerning the actual age of the earth. And also, at the moment, I want to show that of the diminishing lifespans going from before the flood to after the flood, because there is today, no one lives 900 years old. You don't even get close to it. You don't even get close to 200 years. And so there is, it's a funny thing how skeptics, when they speak of places like Genesis 5, they can't take the hundreds of years lifespan. And when they're talking about the days of creation, they can't have it as days. They got to have it as millions or billions of years. They can't leave the time alone. And when God speaks of days, He is, in Genesis chapter 1, they are 7 literal days. When He is talking about the years of those that lived before the flood, their lifespan, that those are literal years. And that when we get on this side of the flood, lifespans begin to diminish. The longevity that used to be is not here anymore. And we looked at this last week, but we have Shem. Shem was born on the other side of the flood. He lived the first part of his life, the first 100 years or so. It's probably about 97 years of his life on the other side of the flood. And then he lives a total of 600 years, which most of his life was on this side of the flood. But if we look at the others in this, as we get further away from the flood, things begin to diminish sharply. And we're going to take this all the way to Jacob is what we're going to do. Okay, so let's look at the average lifespan of those who were born and died on the other side of the flood. All right, I'm making a distinction here. So I'm taking out Noah, I'm taking out Shem, Ham, and Japheth, because while they were born on the other side of the flood, they lived a significant portion of their life on this side of the flood. So we're not counting them. Nor are we counting Enoch, because Enoch was born on the other side of the flood, but he didn't die. Enoch was taken by God. And so his lifespan is not like the others, because the others died on the earth. All right, so the average lifespan for those from Genesis chapter 5 before the flood is 907 years. That's the average out of them all, taking them all together. You'll notice that those born in the first century after the flood, all right, the first 100 years after the flood, having been born there, Arphaxad would be one of those, that the average lifespan is 445 years. That's a loss of 462 years. It's like it's been cut in half. Okay? And here we have just this, being born in that first century after the flood. So we go now to those born in the second century after the flood. So this would be 1,757 to 1,857 years after creation. They were born. We're looking at Peleg and Nahor, and the average there is 214 years. That's another loss of 231 years. There is this slow degradation. All right, those born in the third century, from 201 years to 300 years after the flood, you're looking at 190 years. That's a loss of 24 years. Coming down in all of this. And we have now going to the 4th century, and you're looking at really the only lifespan that I can see in this century is Isaac. So you just have to take his years. That's 180. That's a loss of 10 years. You have those born in the 5th century after the flood, and it's an average of 128 years, and that's a loss of 52 years still from the last generation. And now we come to those later in time. Moses is 120 years. Joshua is 110 years. And we get to David. David is 70 years. Okay, this is more our speed down here. Now, obviously, we have folks that can live longer than 70 years. Obviously. But this is getting down to now to our levels. And between Joshua and David, we're looking at over 400 years, approximately 500 years between Joshua and David. And we see this slow decline in lifespans. That the world was very different in the past. Very different. And that the world prior to the flood was set for us to live a lot longer, as we may have said last week. The people going from the Garden of Eden to the flood were made out of the same stuff that we're made out of. Nothing different at all. We happen to be the children of Adam and Eve. And the genetic code that was in Adam and Eve is that same genetic code that we have today. Nothing has changed at all. Nothing has changed. It's just that we have spread out. We've gone into billions of people, and we have spread out across the world, and which shows the power of that genetic code. Extraordinary power. And the fact of the matter is, you cannot have a coded language, which is what DNA is. The genetic code is a coded language. You can't have a genetic code without a code maker. It's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. You have like the SETI program that steadily listens out into space, trying to, I think that's the name of it, trying to hear any kind of broadcasts out in the universe. And really all that they receive is just like, I guess we could say, white noise. There's nothing there. You cannot decode white noise because it's just random noise. There's no thought behind it. There's no language behind it. It's just absolutely random. And what we have in any true language is intelligence behind it. And it's not random. And that not only is DNA, and we really need to cover this at some point, though we've passed where we should have. DNA is a language that has been coded. You have another part of this RNA that can decode the language, and that the language then goes to construct you or a fern or anything living. Anything that's alive has that coded language. It is really the language of life. And that can't happen randomly. It can't happen by a lightning strike over the primordial ooze. Okay, now we're looking back at Genesis chapter 11, and we just want to look at noted names because, and we'll look at it this way. I just want you to see where the noted names are. Everybody that is in black, that is not circled, or rather in a red box, is just basically stating the same thing. After he begot Eber, Salah lived 403 years and begat sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and begot Peleg. All right, it's all saying the same thing. It's giving us the length of their life and the son that is going to take us through this line, down this line, till we get to Abram. And here are the major names in this. Shem and Arphaxad are separated in this because some things are said about that. Well, that Arphaxad was born 2 years after the flood. So that's extra information. But where we are aiming, where the text is aiming, actually is here. It's that larger red box. Terah, Abram, Nahor, Haran, Lot. Now, the one that's important I've put in blue, that's Abram. Nahor and Haran they have an importance in his life. And Lot, of course, is going to be traveling with Abram. And so, but we're not really going to follow the children of Lot, though we will know who his children are. We will know that. But it's Abram where Scripture has narrowed down. Scripture has narrowed it down to where there's going to be a separation of a people, starting with Abram. And here, Genesis 11 takes us from Arphaxad all the way down to Abram. That is the central figure now for quite a significant part of Genesis. And that Genesis does not have near as much said about Noah, though there's a lot said about Noah, or Adam, as there is concerning Abram. Abram's going to have quite a number of chapters of what he does. And just want to show you how this is focusing down, and the emphasis is going to be on the descendants of Shem, because there is a descendant of Shem, Abram, that's important. And there's also going to be a descendant of Shem who's also a descendant of Abram that is important. That's going to be Jesus of Nazareth in time. It's going to take centuries to get there. But the Bible is already focusing down on this, going from Abram to Isaac, Jacob, and going all the way down to where we get to David and Solomon, and then further on down till we get to the Christ. Now, concerning Ham and Japheth, it doesn't focus as much on them and their children, other than it tells us important peoples, but really doesn't get very far as names in further generations. Concerning Abram is the 20th generation from Adam, whereas when we have Ham and Japheth being brought in, we only get to really the 12th generation by name. And then we have the father of the Canaanites, Javan, and you have the coastland peoples of the Gentiles. And so it's more general, and it's setting things up for what is going to be happening in the history of Israel, and really what's going to be happening through the Old Testament, and of course beyond the Old Testament. Now I want to make a statement here. I want to show some proofs as well. We want to talk about populations. That you do, from Babel, you do have the separation of families by way of language. And that God, and we could show from chapter 10 actually, that God did not separate what we might call the nuclear family or the immediate family. God did not by language, He most certainly did not. That husband, wife, children, they would all have the same language. And He did not separate them up. Separate uncles from nephews, sure. Cousins, sure. He's got to do that because they're all cousins. They're all related one way or another. And they go in different directions. And from Genesis chapter 10 and Genesis chapter 11, we see, well, specifically Genesis chapter 10, we see where they split up and went different directions. We see that. We have names such as Tarshish. We have names such as Cush. And these are ancient names of nations. And they went in various directions. Now, do not think these populations didn't mix, because I'll show you that they did. Don't think that like the children of Shem did not mix with the children of Ham, because they did. They did. People are people are people are people, and they're not going to look at each other as, oh well you're you're a child of Ham, I'll have nothing to do with you, or you're a child of Japheth, I'll have nothing to do with you. I mean, someone might, but that's not what they were doing. And my point is that we are all likely a mix of all three of these lines. Quite likely we are. And as those who are deal with genetics, quite often there can be surprises. You don't really know your great-great-great-great-grandfather, all right, or what he did, or great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother, or what she did, or who she even was. The likelihood is, and that there can be surprises in this, and and you have no control over it whatsoever. But I want to show you something. Okay, Psalm 105 states this: Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob dwelt in the land of Ham. We already made mention that there were descendants of Ham that settled Egypt, and that would have been after the Tower of Babel. They would have headed west and settled that area of Egypt. And Psalm 105 is calling that the land of Ham. But Genesis 25:12, we see this. Now this is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son. That is the son between Abraham and Hagar, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's maidservant, bore to Abram. So here is, she's from Ham. Abraham's from Shem. All right, that Ishmael is a mix of a direct descendant of Shem and a direct descendant of Ham. She's coming from the land. Hagar is coming from the land of Ham. Then Genesis 21:21, he, that is Ishmael, dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Well, she's from Egypt, and his mama is Egyptian. All right, he's used to Egyptian women, and so it would just Ishmael, who is coming from his father is from Shem, mother from Ham. You now have this mix. And let me just say this. Quite often it is thought that Egyptians are Arabic. They're not. They're pre-Arabic. All right, the Arabic people came later. All right, Egyptians are before that. Egyptians existed. Now, obviously, there can be a mix, because that's exactly what I'm saying, a mix to where you don't have someone who's just purely Egyptian going all the way back to Ham. All right, that could be a bad thing genetically, because it is best if you're coming from as wide a scope instead of just a narrow genetic pool. It is better for, of course, you have no control over it. You didn't select your parents. You didn't select the who, the where, the when. You didn't select any of those things. But nevertheless, here is another thing that we can look at. All right, so you have Nimrod, who he does start Babel. He is the king of Babel. After Babel, he starts Erech or Uruk, depending. He spoke and wrote Sumerian because Uruk is a Sumerian, not Sumerian, but a Sumerian city. And then later, Akkadians. Akkad has its own language, though he started Akkad. Akkad has a different language that arrives in it a few centuries later. And Nimrod begins Nineveh. He starts Nineveh. Nimrod is a son of Ham, but Nineveh becomes the capital of Assyria. Assyrians are descendants of Asher. That's Shem. What am I saying? It had a start with descendants of Ham, and you have this mixing, and now it gains the name Assyrian from Asher. That is a descendant of Shem, not Ham. All right, that may be kind of muddy, but I want you to notice that it's not as though any of these places were set in one thing, such as these are all the descendants of Shem and it's nothing else could be there, and that's not true. Or these are all the descendants of Ham and nothing else could be there. That's not true. People are people are people are people. You always have a Romeo and a Juliet. All right. And a better story than that, because they killed themselves at the end. Better story than that. And Romeo and Juliet coming from different sections of the city, warring families, and well, you can have plenty of Romeos and Juliets, and they have children. All right, there's plenty of that goes on, and it has gone throughout history. Now, just want to bring out that Abram is born at 1,949 years after creation, and Abram dies 175 years later at 2,124. He dies then, and just in continuing this age of the earth and what the Bible tells us. Now, Abram was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him, Genesis 21, verse 5. So at 2049, Isaac is born. And Isaac was 60 when his sons were born. And he does have twins, Jacob and Esau. They're born in 2109. And this is giving us, actually telling us some things. When we know that, we can begin to work off those numbers. Jacob is born in 2109. At 147 years, he died in 2256. And of course, we know he died in Egypt. But it says that he was 17 years in Egypt before he died. So he enters Egypt in 2239, and when Jacob enters Egypt, that's when Israel, that's all the sons that would be the tribes, go into Israel. Joseph's already there. Go into Egypt. Joseph's already there, but the other 11 come in. And we can know that in 2239, that's exactly the date after creation that Israel entered Egypt. And if we know how many years they were there, then we know when they exited as well. And yeah, we do. All right, this is just putting all that down into a list. And so we have the Exodus. The Exodus happens 430 years of Egyptian being housed in Egypt, anyway, of Israel in Egypt. So the Exodus is at 2,669 years after creation. Now, so we can also know the year that Moses died. Moses died 2709. That's the same year that Israel enters Canaan. So 2709, we know when that they entered Canaan, which means we can know when Abram was given the land promise, and we can also know when the land promise was absolutely fulfilled. Now, I want us to go back to Abram. I want us to see some things at the last of Genesis 11. to just look at some things here, and it's going to tell us concerning Terah and concerning Abram. All right, now Terah lived 70 years and begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. We already saw that last year. This is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begat Lot. Now Lot is someone that we're going to know more about. Nahor, does anybody know how Nahor connects other than being a brother of Abram? Nahor is going to be the father of somebody. You've got a descendant of Nahor. All right? It happens to be none other than the wife of Isaac. That's where Isaac is going to get his wife, is from Nahor's family. And the sister of Laban. And so you have Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in his native land in Ur of the Chaldeans. This is where they have been living. And Ur is a real place. We'll look at that hopefully in just a few minutes. Ur is a real place of the Chaldeans. And this is where they have been presumably since Babel. That Eber and Salah and Peleg would have gone into Ur, settled in Ur. And Ur is not very far, actually, from Babel. It's not very far at all. Then Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no children. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son, Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan, and they came to Haran and dwelt there. So they have left Ur at this point. And Terah is with them in this. They have left Ur, and there is a good reason to leave Ur. There's a very good reason too. And God is going to give a reason for Abraham even to leave his father's house. So the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. All right, let me just now go to the next verse. Now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land I will show you. All right, I want you to notice something, that you can read through this and not look at the numbers and not realize that Haran did not die and then Abram left that area. Abram's called from God. He's called by God to leave that area, because that didn't happen. Terah lives 205 years. Terah lived 60 years after Abram was called. That means that Terah lived during the lifespan, during the life, he lived long enough to where Isaac is born. Isaac could have known his grandfather Terah. It doesn't say that, but it would be a possibility. Nonetheless, it was a potential nonetheless. And he dies, Terah dies at 2084. Abram is called when he's 75 years old. That's 2024. And so it's another 60 years in this. Now, we go to chapter 12. This is the call. This is going to be the beginning of the separation of Abram from everybody else. Now the Lord said to Abram, get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. Okay? He is taking him out of there, and he's not going to be a citizen of any country. He had been from Ur, and one could assume that he's a citizen of Ur there. They've all been that. But now he has moved away. He will be going as far to the west as Egypt, and he'll be roaming around in Canaan. But he's been separated from his father's house, and which there is idolatry that is going on. Ur is full of idolatry. Ur's not like this righteous town that just everyone recognizes Jehovah. That's not the case. They're as pagan as anybody gets. All right, of where, they are. If you happen to be married to a king, or if you happen to be one of his servants of a king, and the king dies, you're going to die at the funeral. All right, you go in the grave, or you go in the tomb with him. And all right, that's not what righteous people do. That's not what worshipers of Jehovah do. That's paganism, and we will show some things about that in a bit. I will make you a great nation. Here is the promise. Abram, who has no children, 75 years old, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. Okay, make you a great nation. Does he literally mean that, or is that some kind of in a figurative sense? Well, no, he literally means it. And Abram must have believed it. He must have believed that God would do it. Not that theoretically God could do it, but that he would in fact do it. And make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Now he doesn't tell him how, not in these words anyway, how all the nations or the families of the earth shall be blessed. But we know what that means, having hindsight and the biblical text completed, that we know what that means. And that means that the Christ will be born from the descendants of Abraham. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. They've already left Ur. Now he traveled with his father to Haran. They've been in Haran. Now he's departing from his father's family. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. Doesn't tell you how long it took them to get there. It would have taken a while. All right, not years upon years upon years necessarily, but it would have taken weeks to have done it, because you're traveling by foot, or you've got oxen, or you've got whatever animals you're taking along with you, and so they have now left Haran and going where God has sent him. Abram passed through the land of the place of Shechem as far as the terebinth tree to Moreh, and the Canaanites were then in the land. And at this point, the Canaanites aren't as wicked as they would be in a few more hundred years. They're not as wicked, but they're heading that direction. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your descendants I will give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. So Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. Now, I want to take just a little bit of time to talk about Ur. And skeptics in the past skeptics will deny anything. All right, they'll deny anything. You've got skeptics that denied that Jesus was even a real person. All right, and probably still today, those that would say he's a work of fiction, that no one by the name of Jesus of Nazareth ever had a following or was ever crucified or anything like that. But actually, there is too much history that is recorded of the age for you'd be silly to deny it, and you're silly to deny anything that God tells us. But here is where is. This is, I hope that you can make this out, at least loosely. This is called the Standard of That's the name we gave it, or that archaeologists gave it. Somebody gave it that name. That's not what they called it. We don't even know what this object is, but it is called the Standard of And I want you to notice, and maybe you can tell, maybe you can't tell, that all the men in here are clean shaven. They don't have a beard of any type, and they don't have hair on the top of their heads. All right? Now, notice also this kind of feathery, not that they're feathers, but what they're wearing, the bottom fringe is kind of feathered. And there are also some in here that looks like they're probably wearing some sort of cap, okay? And the animals basically people basically look like people. This one is seated with a nice chalice, and these others seated, I guess they're royal. We have someone over there on a musical instrument like a lyre. And this is telling us basically some things in the life of And might I add that in the ruins, in the archaeological site of they have found clay tablets, and on at least one of those clay tablets is a name, and the name is Abram. Now, that's not to say that's Abram of Genesis 12 and following, but that name did exist in All right, now how does the Bible get that right? How does it get it right? Except that you have God behind it, and God is giving us facts in all this. Now, just as an aside, just as a thing that even when I was a kid, you have in all the study material and the illustrations in the material that you get in your basic Sunday school books and your basic flannel boards and things like that, I couldn't help but notice that if we were talking about Moses, Moses was dressed the same as Paul. Paul is dressed the same as, let's just say, Elijah. And Elijah is dressed the same as Noah. They were all dressed the same. And I thought, how doesn't anybody change any style of clothing around here? Now, how can you have thousands upon thousands of years, different languages, different countries, and they all dressing the same? Well, it makes it simple that you have a figure, okay, and you put a bunch of animals around this figure, it's Noah. All right, you take that away and you use the same figure, and now you give him a throne. Okay, now it's David or Solomon. You take the throne away, and now you have a ship, and now it's Paul. All right, that's pretty easy. That's pretty easy and all this. But notice, they don't have beards. They obviously have shaven heads, and the clothing they wear are very, very different. Not what I would have expected in this. And it's just showing basically things that some kind of scene in This one, if you can make this out, the two men here, this too is from and what you're seeing here is cuneiform writing. And the men here are clean shaven and their heads are shaved. Here, this looks like a Buddhist statue. This looks like a Buddhist monk, but this is from too. You've got the robes and completely shaven except the eyebrows. And going a little further, just some basic things here found in This is kind of funny. These are records. They're in clay, cuneiform, and this is it's just funny. It's not like this is some sort of extraordinary literary finds in this. This first one is a contract for a loan of silver. This one is a list of gifts made to the Ningal temple after a successful trading voyage down the Persian Gulf. This one, this is funniest, is a complaint about delivery of wrong grade of copper. You gave me cheap copper. All right? And it looks like an angry letter, doesn't it? No. But, all right, now I want you to see this. Anybody have a guess? Some of you may know what this is. Anybody have a guess as to what this is? It is a game. Yeah, this is from, they've got several of these that they have found. It is a game. We call it the ancient game of That's what we call it. No telling what they called it. These have been found in tombs in And just like y'all, in looking at all this, that it seems like it's a game. That's just a good guess. And that's what the archaeologists thought. It looks like it is a game. And there on this side of it, that is a clay tablet, and it does tell you the rules to this game. They did find it. For decades, after finding the game itself, for decades, they didn't know what the rules were and had no idea they actually had the rules. It's just in with a lot of other clay tablets. And they developed, it's just for the fun of it, decided they would make up their own rules. All right, and yeah, that's pretty good. But when they found the actual rules, they discovered this game's a lot harder than we thought it was. It is a ton harder. It's two different games entirely. And these symbols do have a meaning in this, in the actual game itself. And I did not steal this from a museum, but you can get it today. Got it off of Amazon. And I know that I know that the two ways to play are very different because I've tried it both ways. And the one way works, the modern way, we'll call it that, the modern just making it up way, is more like an average board game like you would play with Sorry or something like that. But what the people of how they played it was significantly more difficult. I mean, it's on the level of, really on the level of chess is what it is. That you've got to really concentrate as to what you're doing. And why it's in this shape, I have no idea. Nifty shape nonetheless. But my point is they're human beings. They like games too. Yes, ma'am. It's called the ancient game. Here it's called the game. Because it's found in It's also known as the ancient game of And there's actually a video from the British Museum, because this is where this photo was taken. At the British Museum, there is a curator who has his own YouTube channel. There's a video of him playing the game, but he's not playing it the difficult way. He's not doing that. Yeah, it's they are human and they're smart. All right, they're smart. That this game is more complicated than we actually would typically make a game. Now this next one I'll show you, and I don't know how to explain it. I really don't. All right, Abraham he is called to sacrifice Isaac. Abraham goes all of the way to where he's supposed to sacrifice Isaac, and he ties Isaac up. He has put him on the wood and is ready to kill Isaac, and God stops him, knowing full well he's going to do it. And of course, in Hebrews 11 tells us the level of faith that Abram had. Abram knew that no matter what happened, the two of them are walking back down. If he killed Isaac, he knew God was going to keep his promise concerning Isaac. Isaac at this point had no children. He's still a boy. He has no children. And Abraham knows Isaac's got to have children. And he knows that God is not going to, if God has him kill Isaac as a sacrifice, then God's going to raise him from the dead. That's what Hebrews 11 states. Now, God doesn't let him touch Isaac as far in any way to kill him. He doesn't allow that. But what is found immediately after God tells him, don't lay your hand on the boy? All right, what is found? A ram. That's exactly right. Where was the ram? In a thicket. All right, this too is from Ur. I don't know how to take this. This is called, and it is archaeologists that gave it this name, it's ram in the thicket. It's from Ur. All right, how? I mean, this is just too coincidental. Did they know what had occurred with Abram after he left him? Did the people of Ur know? I can't answer that question. But this is very, very strange that you would have this ram that is in this thicket, is what it's called, and I don't know. It's just a very, very peculiar coincidence. Now I'm going to show you this. This is a headdress and jewelry and whatnot of one of those innocents who were killed along with the king. It's the funeral of the king. They dress them up. Everyone who's going to be buried with the king, they are dressed in finery, and they're killed in the funeral and buried along with the king. And they are entombed with the king. And this is one of those things of it's good to get out of Ur. All right, if they're doing things like this, they're going into a very bad direction. All right, this is as far as we can get for today, and appreciate everybody being with us. And we will continue next week. Thank you.